The year 1939 marked a turning point in American coinage history because it introduced the Jefferson nickel, which replaced the long-running Buffalo nickel that had been in circulation since 1913. By the late 1930s, the Buffalo design was worn down easily and difficult to strike clearly, which caused constant problems for the United States Mint. Officials decided it was time for a new design that would honor an important American figure while also being practical for mass production. Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, was selected as the new face of the 5-cent coin. A public design competition was announced, and sculptor Felix Schlag won with his elegant portrait of Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello Jefferson's Virginia home on the reverse. However, Schlag was required to modify his original reverse design to include clearer lettering and a more formal appearance before final approval. The Jefferson nickel was first struck in 1938, but the 1939 issue became historically significant because it was the first year the coin entered full nationwide circulation and became familiar to the American public. The obverse featured a left-facing profile of Thomas Jefferson with the word Liberty, and the date placed neatly to the right, while the motto, "In God We Trust," appeared along the left rim. The reverse showcased Monticello with fine architectural detail, including steps and columns, which later became important for collectors. Early 1939 nickels were struck at 3 mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and each mint produced coins with slight differences in strike quality and surface texture. Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark, while Denver used a D and San Francisco used an S beneath Monticello. The year 1939 also became famous among collectors due to the creation of one of the most valuable Jefferson nickel varieties ever produced, known as the 1939 Doubled Monticello reverse. This error occurred when the reverse die was impressed twice at slightly different angles, causing visible doubling on the words Monticello and 5 cents. At the time, these coins circulated unnoticed and were spent like ordinary nickels. But decades later, collectors discovered the variety and its importance skyrocketed. Today, a genuine 1939 doubled Monticello nickel in high grade can be worth thousands of dollars, making it one of the key treasures in the entire Jefferson Nickel series. Another important variety from this year was the 1939 reverse of 1940 nickel. During the transition between die designs, some 1939 nickels were struck using a reverse die that was intended for the following year. This resulted in sharper details and slightly altered lettering compared to the standard 1939 reverse. These transitional coins reflect the constant experimentation and refinement happening at the Mint as officials tried to improve the durability and clarity of the new design. Such varieties provide a fascinating glimpse into the behind-the-scenes processes of American coin production during the late 1930s. Historically, the release of the 1939 Jefferson nickel occurred during a tense period in world history. The United States was still recovering from the Great Depression, and global events were moving toward the outbreak of World War II. Everyday Americans used these nickels to buy bread, newspapers, and small necessities, while the world around them was rapidly changing. The coin became a silent witness to history, passing through countless hands in factories, farms, and city streets. Its simple copper-nickel composition made it durable and practical for daily commerce, while its design quietly celebrated American ideals and leadership. Collectors today view the 1939 Jefferson nickel as a cornerstone of the series, not only because of its varieties, but because it represents the moment when a new era of American coinage truly began. It was the year when the public fully accepted the Jefferson design, and when the Mint began refining techniques that would carry the series through decades of production. From worn pocket change to carefully preserved mint state examples, the 1939 Jefferson nickel tells a story of transition, innovation, and national identity. Its legacy continues to grow as new generations of collectors search rolls and collections, hoping to discover one of its famous varieties and connect with a small but powerful piece of American history. As the 1939 Jefferson nickel continued to circulate, it slowly became part of everyday American life, and many people did not immediately notice the change from the buffalo nickel, even though the new design carried a very different personality. Where the buffalo nickel symbolized the frontier and rugged expansion, the Jefferson nickel reflected stability, intellect, and government leadership, which matched the mood of a nation trying to rebuild confidence after years of economic hardship. Banks and businesses distributed millions of these coins, and children growing up in the late 1930s and early 1940s often remembered Jefferson's calm face as one of the first coins they learned to recognize. Mint production in 1939 revealed early challenges with striking the Monticello steps clearly and evenly. The fine horizontal lines at the base of the building were especially difficult to bring out using the existing minting equipment. As a result, many 1939 nickels show weak steps or flat details, even when the rest of the coin appears well struck. This weakness later became a major factor for collectors who began valuing coins with fully visible steps far higher than ordinary examples. The term full steps would eventually become a key grading designation, but its roots trace directly back to the striking problems first seen in 1939. During this time, the Philadelphia Mint produced the highest number of Jefferson nickels, followed by Denver and San Francisco. Yet despite large mintages, high-quality survivors from all three mints remain surprisingly scarce today. Many coins were heavily used during the war years that followed, and nickel coins were constantly in motion, buying food stamps, transit rides, and small essentials. Few people thought to save rolls of brand-new Jefferson nickels because they were not precious metals and were seen as purely functional money. As the 1940s progressed, collectors began paying closer attention to the 1939 issues, especially after numismatic publications started reporting the discovery of the Doubled Monticello variety. This sparked renewed interest in roll searching and coin hunting long before it became popular again in modern times. Collectors examined pocket change and bank rolls under magnifying glasses, hoping to find the distinctive doubled lettering on the reverse. This search helped establish Jefferson nickels as a serious collectible series rather than just spare change. The historical importance of the 1939 Jefferson nickel also lies in how it influenced later modifications to the design. Mint engravers continued adjusting relief depth, lettering spacing, and die preparation techniques throughout the early 1940s in response to wear and striking complaints. Lessons learned from the first few years, including 1939, directly shaped the more consistent strikes seen in later decades. In this way, the 1939 nickel acted as a foundation upon which the entire long-running Jefferson series was built. By the time World War II began, the 1939 Jefferson nickel had already become familiar and trusted, and when wartime silver alloy nickels were introduced in 1942, collectors later looked back at the original copper-nickel issues like 1939 as symbols of the pre-war era. These coins represented a final moment of normalcy before rationing, metal shortages, and dramatic changes to American industry. Holding a 1939 Jefferson nickel today is like holding a quiet artifact from the calm before the storm. In modern numismatics, the 1939 Jefferson nickel continues to grow in importance because it combines historical significance, collectible varieties, and technical challenges. Grading services carefully examine step detail, strike sharpness, and surface preservation, and prices rise dramatically for coins that meet the highest standards. While millions were once struck, only a tiny fraction survive in premium condition, making them prized additions to advanced collections. This enduring appeal ensures that the story of the 1939 Jefferson nickel is far from over. Each year, new collectors discover its history, and experts continue studying die varieties, mint records, and production techniques. The coin stands as a reminder that even small everyday objects can carry deep historical meaning and lasting cultural impact. As decades passed, the 1939 Jefferson nickel quietly transformed from an ordinary piece of pocket change into a historical artifact studied by collectors and historians alike. Many of these coins spent years buried in jars, drawers, and forgotten savings before being rediscovered during periods of renewed interest in coin collecting, especially during the coin boom of the 1950s, when Americans began pulling older coins from circulation in large numbers. During this time, people realized that early Jefferson nickels, like those from 1939, were becoming harder to find in clean condition because most had already suffered heavy wear. The rise of third-party grading in later decades further changed how the 1939 Jefferson nickel was viewed and valued. Professional graders began carefully analyzing strike-quality luster and surface marks, and special attention was given to the Monticello steps, which became the defining feature for premium examples. Coins graded with full steps from 1939 were found to be extremely rare, especially from the Denver and San Francisco mints, and this rarity pushed prices higher and strengthened the coin's reputation as a serious collectible rather than a common nickel. Another fascinating chapter in the history of the 1939 Jefferson nickel involves die usage and longevity. Because the mint was still learning how best to produce the new design, many dies were used longer than ideal, leading to progressive die wear that can be observed today. Some coins show mushy details or distorted lettering, while others struck early from fresh dies display crisp features and strong architectural lines on Monticello. These differences allow modern collectors to study the life cycle of a single die and understand the pressures faced by mint workers during this transitional period. Cultural memory also plays an important role in the legacy of the 1939 Jefferson nickel. For many families, these coins were part of wartime childhood memories passed down through stories rather than metal. Grandparents often recall carrying Jefferson nickels in their pockets during the early 1940s, using them for candy streetcar fares or small luxuries during uncertain times. These personal connections elevate the coin beyond its metal content and transform it into a vessel of lived experience. As numismatic research expanded, scholars began comparing the Jefferson nickel to earlier and later coin designs to understand shifts in American identity. The choice of Jefferson emphasized intellect, democracy, and statesmanship rather than military power or frontier symbolism. This decision reflected a nation seeking unity and stability during global unrest. The 1939 issue stands at the heart of this transition, making it an important cultural marker as much as a monetary one. Today, the 1939 Jefferson nickel continues to inspire new generations of collectors who study mint reports, auction records, and surviving population data. Advanced collectors pursue complete 1939 sets, including all mint marks, varieties, and reverse types, while others focus solely on finding a single high-grade example. With strong steps and original luster, each approach keeps the coin alive within the modern hobby. The ongoing fascination with the 1939 Jefferson nickel proves that even coins once ignored can gain new life through research, discovery, and storytelling. Its journey from everyday change to prized collectible mirrors the evolution of American numismatics itself and ensures that this small 5-cent piece will remain an enduring subject of study, discussion, and admiration for years to come.